everybody. Welcome to the show. Got a little bit of a special, different kind of episode today. It's just me, straight to you, talking to you on what will be launch day for Awake. I'm recording this just a handful of days in advance. But it's imminent. Like, it's right around the corner. As you're listening to this, it's in the world. The book is in the world. It feels crazy to say it. God, this day just felt like it was so far away for so long. This is not a book I ever expected to write, as you can well imagine. I mean, this wasn't like anything I had in queue. This wasn't something I had always kind of dreamed of writing. A memoir about the loss of my marriage? Nope, that's not it. This book has surprised even me. And I think it's going to surprise some of you. Especially those of you who have been around me and my writing for a long time, which is so many of you. You're going to notice right away that this one's different. Right away. Kind of in every way. Like in format, in content, in tone. Anyway, I'll get to that here in a minute in this episode. But Awake is genuinely like nothing I've ever written before. And I just want to say this. Thank you for all of you who have ordered it. Thank you. So many of you pre-ordered and you've been cheering me on in ways that I don't know if you can ever understand how meaningful that is to me and how that has been my rocket fuel for this season, which is overwhelming and nerve-wracking. And so thank you. Thank you for pre-ordering. Thank you for ordering. Thank you for sharing it with the people that you love. This is the kind of book, I think, that when you read it, once you take in whatever it is that you're going to take in from this story, I think you're going to go, I know who else I would like to read this. It's kind of like that. It's one of those. So thank you in advance. The writing of Awake, let me tell you a little bit about it. Trying to figure out where to start. First of all, let's maybe start here. Like why? Let's start with why. Why? Why would I write a book that is so tender, so personal? God, it's so honest. I mean, I am still shocked by some of the things that I included, and not like in a gross, salacious way. You know better than that. This is not like a juicy tell-all kind of it. It's just not. It's not that. But what I sort of included in terms of my own stuff felt really, really honest. And so why would I want to do it? Like, why couldn't I just move on to some like other big idea that we are discussing or, that matters to the community? And let me explain to you my experience having lived this story in front of you as a person who's kind of public-y or whatever. I've been leading, I don't know, that feels very dramatic word, but kind of leading this community for almost 20 years. Hold on, let me do the math. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's about right. Almost 20 years. And, you know, among lots of things that we have talked about in the span of 2 decades and how those conversations have all evolved, of course. One of the things, that I have talked about with you for years is marriage and family. And my family. Like, you watched my kids grow up and you knew my marriage, and losing my marriage in the way that I lost it was so catastrophic and shocking and humiliating and confusing. Period. Like, just period, as a person who just experienced it, much less as someone who is in the public eye and someone who has also spoken about that marriage for so long. And so I was so freaked out. It took me, I was so freaked out. I didn't know how to handle this publicly. I did not know what to say, or I didn't know how to help you try to understand something I could not even understand either. I didn't know about timing. I didn't know what you would think. I did not know if I had just cratered my credibility, right? In your life and in this community. I just did not know what to expect. And when I tell you that in all of our years together, through every really big thing that we have talked about, huge, consequential, emotional subjects, nothing has ever galvanized our community more than this story. And when I handed it to you 5 years ago, just with a broken heart, with absolutely no explanation for any of it, how can I explain what I can't understand? The way in which this community rose up and gathered around me so fiercely, so beautifully, with the most unbelievable amount of compassion, discretion. God, to your credit. Because back there, I didn't say anything at all. Nobody knew anything that had happened until this book started hitting like the airwaves. I had never even said that there had been an affair. Not one time. Like, I offered no details back then. I had not said he picked another person. I hadn't said anything. And you didn't push. You did not pry. Listen, I know us well enough. I'm sure you had conversations with your friends, but at least to me, nobody was like, Jen, oh my God, tell us what happened. All you did was come around me with the most amazing levels of love and connection and compassion I have ever experienced. And I'm getting to my point. There's no way for me to explain how much that mattered to me. I did not know if I would ever, I had no idea. Am I ever going to be happy again? Is everything ruined? Are my kids ruined? Is my life over? Can I do this? I don't know how to be single. I had so many questions and I had no answers, and your love for me, and I have said this to several interviewers who asked, your love was like thousands and thousands of lanterns that you held up in front of me. So many of you said, hey, Jen, we've been there. Hey, Jen, this has happened to us too. This has happened to me. That was me 5 years ago. That was me 10 years ago. Keep going. Here's what you're going to experience. Here's what you can expect. You are going to recover. Keep going. Keep walking. Keep coming. And it just felt like those lanterns meant so much to me, because I was in the pitch black, dark night of the soul. I could not see 2 inches in front of my face. Everything was so shrouded in grief and loss and fear. So I could see all these little lanterns from my community going, keep going. We're here. We are here. We're with you. Keep walking. I'll never get over that as long as I live. For every single one of you who ever said a kind thing to me, who hung in and hung on during that just tumultuous, terrible time. Thank you. And so, back to the original question, because as you know, I can't answer anything quickly. Why would I want to write this book? Why would I want to put this story out there? And here's why. I really feel like in my heart, like in my core, in my knowing, this is my lantern. This is the lantern I am holding up. I am holding it up for women everywhere who need someone else to tell them, keep going. Keep going. You're not alone. So many of us understand exactly where you're at. I understand your feelings. I understand your fear. I understand your trauma. But maybe also a teeny bit, I understand your future. I understand what you are capable of, what is possible for you. I understand your resiliency. I understand that no matter what you have lost, what has changed, what has shifted, and for you that might be divorce, but it might be any number of things that we experience here in midlife. I don't hardly know a woman who is not experiencing some sort of major transition right now, whether it is in her marriage or it's in parenting, our kids are growing up and launching. If it's in your career, it's in our bodies, in our health. Just pick a category. But I think I am able to kind of go, really, no matter how bad the loss is, how brokenhearted you are over it, understandably so, I still believe, I do, that some of your best days are ahead of you. Even now, even still. I still believe that we are not just capable, but absolutely equipped to build a beautiful second half of our lives. And I'm not special. I'm not, you guys. And no, neither is my story. This is not special. Divorce is not that interesting. Half of us have had it, right? Betrayal is not that interesting. It's a boring trope that just keeps getting repeated. Not that interesting. I am just a person. I am not that special. I'm not. I'm a mom. I'm just like you. God, obviously. So I don't have some special capacity to recover that you don't have. I don't. And so as a regular person who had been married for 26 years, who lost the foundation of her family, which was my marriage, I feel like I have a lantern to hold up. All right. Now, let me tell you a little bit about writing it. First of all, thank goodness I didn't write it 3 or 4 years ago. Oh my God, you'd have had a different book in your hands. But when I had gotten on the other side of the chaos and the pain and the suffering and even the rebuilding process, I had moved through sort of the majority of that recovery work, which is all in here, by the way. Every last detail is in here. And I was solidly into the rebuilding phase of my life. And I knew oh my gosh, I think I can speak to this at this point with wisdom, with discretion that matters to me so much, which you will see when you read it. The nosy Nellies will probably be unhappy with the amount of details I kept out but discretion mattered to me. And not only that, I said this at the beginning of the book. I was really reluctant to drift into a trope, or what I would even consider lazy storytelling, which is victim villain, right? Guilty innocent. Just a very cut and dried and black and white story, which would have felt good to write at least a few years ago, when I was so angry and hurt still. But when I got north of that, I knew that was not going to be the tone, because that's not how I feel anymore. That's not how, that's where I was at for a while, for a season, but I'm not there anymore. So I knew I needed to write from a healed place. And I also knew that I was not interested at all in writing some sort of like prescriptive book. Do you know what I mean by that? Which has been my history with you as my readers. When I look honestly, when I take a candid look at my writing history, and I realize my sort of approach to writing for at least the last couple of books has been pretty prescriptive. In other words, like, I will take this idea, this like themed idea for a book, and I will like research it down to the nubs, right? Like, I'm reading everything. I'm assimilating all this information around it. I'm exposing, myself to everything I can learn about it. And then I take all that and I distill it down and I write it for you. And basically I put it on a silver platter and hand it to you and say, okay, community, I've done the work for us. Here's what we think about this. Here's our conclusions on this idea. You could just plug this right into your outlet and you don't even have to do any heavy lifting. I've done it for us, right? So this is the path through. These are the steps. These are the stages. However, I would write that. Very like, in conclusion. I knew I was not doing that. And so I knew that this book was going to be descriptive, not prescriptive. And I knew that I didn't want to even polish it up with what would have been the benefit of hindsight, right? Like, I didn't even want to look backwards at it and go, now, 4 or 5 years later, here's what I learned. Or I just didn't even want to do that. I wanted to write it as pure as I could. So I guess let me think. About 2 years ago when I started this process. 3 of my best creative partners and I spent 2 days here in Austin. They came in for it. They flew in for it. And I had told them, okay, I kind of have an idea. I have an idea for how I want to write this, but I've never written like this before. And I don't even know if it has legs. I don't even know, frankly, if I can do it. I don't really know how to do it. And I said, I want to write this in vignettes. I don't want chapters. I don't want long commentary on whatever. I want to write this entire book from page 1 to page last in only memories, moments, experiences, and I want to tell each one in real time as if that was the day it happened. So I won't even give myself the benefit of distance or hindsight to go, upon reflection, what I can see that was this. None. I just wanted to take all these little tiny moments that built the story, lay them on the page as if they just happened that day, and hand them to you. Knowing I can trust you. I can trust you to do what you need to do with that information. I can trust you to take exactly what you need out of each and every moment, memory, everything, and alchemize that into your own life, into your own story. I don't have to tell you what to do with it. I don't have to tell you what to think about it. I don't have to tell you how to process it. I do none of that. I just say, here's a thing that happened on a Tuesday in 2020 in November. So, but then I also knew that, again, to my earlier point, divorce is not that interesting of a story. And that's not worth my energy to write it all down. It's not worth your energy to read. I knew for sure, having lost a marriage that I had built inside structures that guaranteed some outcomes, right? That guaranteed this is how you will be as a wife. This is what it will look like for you to be a couple. This is what it's like for you to be a ministry. This is what the husband does. This is what the wife does. I had all these systems and structures around me, just like you. That is ubiquitous. And built a marriage inside all the borders and all the categories. We fit the puzzle piece in, right? Like we were supposed to. And it failed. And so I knew that I wanted to look at the whole house of cards, not just my little individual marriage, but the whole thing. What built the whole house? Let's take a look at patriarchy. Let's take a look at gender limitations. Let's take a look at body shame. Let's take a look at purity culture. And not, again, in a prescriptive way. Not like I'm going to write an essay about patriarchy. More like, where did those things show up in my story? How young was I when I first assimilated the role of a good girl? Who said that to me? What did I hear? What did I experience? So I am looking at all the bricks that built this house and examining them in memories and in moments, and the way that they were foundational to how I understood myself, my place in the world, my marriage, all of it. Those bricks, I think you'll be able to relate to. These bricks built most of our houses. So I told my team that we had a whiteboard, we had all of our laptops open. Guys, when I tell you I had the barest bones of an idea for how to do it, because it was so unfamiliar to me. It was like, I did not have this fleshed out. It wasn't like, here's my developed outline. I could fit in one hand what I was thinking. I pulled up at the time, like, here's 6 or 7 like little individual memories that I think matter to the arc of this story. Some of them were inside the divorce story, from the time I found out to the whatever. And some of them were kind of nestled inside my big story, my life story. I'm like, I think there's a thread here. There's some threads between all these little memories, all these little moments, all these messages that I have assimilated over the course of my life. I think there's something here to find. And I kind of want to tell it in real time. So like, for example, let me just look. Let me give you an example. Okay. The very second vignette of the entire book. The first entry is, as my friend Pepper told me, who was one of my creative partners that day. He's like, wherever you start or however you want to build this out, start in the ER. So I start with you in the ER the very second I discovered that my husband was having an affair. So it's a gut punch, the first one. Here's the second one. Here's how it starts. I'm not reading this whole thing to you. I'm just going to give you an example of how it's written. It's called Dead Rose. I am a high school freshman attending the first session of True Love Waits at my church. This course, the leaders tell our parents, will teach us teenagers about purity and how to stave off our burgeoning sexuality. There is nothing more precious than a girl's virginity. So the deacons and their wives would discuss the perils of heavy petting and spaghetti straps. They'd been trained on the curriculum. And on it goes. So I tell this to you as if it was the day I was there. What I heard, what the youth pastor compared us girls, our bodies to, how deeply that affected me and impacted me, how it corrupted any healthy sense of sexuality I might have ever had, and how confused I was on that day. And then that's it. Turn the page. You take from that what you need, right? So that is how it works. So anyway, we're in this room together and I'm like, I think this is how I want to tell it, kind of going back and forth throughout moments of my whole life while taking this one story in a more linear fashion, interspersed is memories of the loss of my marriage. So we kind of talked through it as much as we possibly could. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Here's a handful of like examples that I handed them. Like, these are examples of memories that I think have connective threads to this whole story and help make sense of those bricks that crumbled. And so we fleshed that out just as far as we could. And finally, I remember we were just like in a co-working space in downtown Austin. And I finally looked around at Rachel and at Chelsea and at Pepper. And I said, you guys, I think we've talked about this and brainstormed about this and evaluated this as much as we can do without just having me write it down. Like, it's too speculative at this point. It's too what's the word when it's theoretical. It's theoretical. I have a theoretical idea on how to write this book, but we need some of the words in our hands to really see how does it feel on the page? How does it feel to the reader? Will this deliver the story in the way that I am hoping that it will? So I'm like, sorry to leave y'all. So I literally went like down the hall and posted up on this chair in this co-working space in a window, like in downtown. And I took the first 4 ideas, that first 4 little moments and memories, some from my life in 2020 when everything fell apart, and a couple of others in history, like pieces that had built the story. And I wrote them out. So they're all really short. Like, they're not chapters. The book is structured in 3 sections overall. The section 1 is called The End. Section 2 is called The Middle. And section 3 is called The Beginning. So I wrote them. Oh my guys, the fits it gave me trying to write in real time. You know, when I'm writing an 8th grade memory, it took me a third of the book to finally get the tense of all my verbs right. I kept writing it in past tense because it's in the past. And I'm like, no, Jen, you're writing this in real time. Like, you're writing it that day. The amount of times I had to comb back through and change all the verb tenses to present instead of past was every single paragraph. So don't think that writing style came naturally to me. It was so clunky at the beginning until the end. I mean, hell, I don't even know if I could ever write in past tense again. It was all in real time for me. But so I wrote these like 4 or 5 of the first vignettes. And I put them in a file and I sent it to my friend. I at that point, everybody had dispersed because I'm like, I'm going to have to do the writing and we'll pick this up tomorrow and see like, okay, this is sort of what we're dealing with. Send it to them. I mean, when I tell you I could have bitten every nail off, I'm like, oh my God. Include the first vignette, like I mentioned to you a second ago, I had not told them. They didn't even know that. These are my like work partners. These are my creative partners. Like we run this small business together. They did not even know exactly what I heard and what happened that night. So, I mean, on one hand, I was anxious about the scope, the vision of the book, the style of the book, the writing of the book. And then on the other hand, I just had this immediate, vulnerable, like, just panic. Like, oh my God, this is what it would feel like. How can I tolerate telling these 3 people who love me, who are very close to me, we've worked together every single week forever, Can I tolerate them knowing this? It was a little bit of a litmus test. Will I be able to handle the vulnerability that this book is going to require? So anyway, the next morning we met back in our space. And I mean, I am walking in like my heart is pounding. I am so nervous. I just don't know what they're going to say. And I had already told them in advance, don't gas this up if it's bad. That's not helpful to me. Like, that's not what we're doing here. You're not here to make me feel good about whatever sort of garbage thing I say. That's not it. You are my creative partners. I expect you to put a critical eye on this. I expect you to find the holes in this format or in this style. I am not looking for an atta girl. That's not useful at all. So having already delivered that big speech to them, prepared then to kind of come into what I expected to be a pretty fair amount of constructive criticism, when all three of them were like, Jen, we're kind of freaking out, but in a good way. Like, this is something. This is different. This is special. I remember my friend Rachel was like, I got to the end of that fourth vignette or fifth, however many I wrote that day. And she was like, I just could not believe there was not more for me to read. My only thought was, why is this already over? So I was like, okay, because I trust them. I knew that if that was their sense of it, that I could move forward with some degree of confidence in that. Just keep going, keep writing in this way, keep building the story bit by bit. And boy, so in addition to like the big scope of it, which is my whole entire life, I include moments from all my childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, all of it, all. The smaller story, the loss of my marriage, spans from the day it happened, which is July 11th, 2020. So we start there. That's the first sentence. On July 11th, 2020. And then it rolls forward and covers about a year and a half. So the scope of it, of all those moments and memories, go until the end of 2021. So that's the time frame of the small story. And so when I was writing it, and as I mentioned, that first section is called the end. That first third was so hard to write. Oh my God, it was so hard to write. Going back into it all, going back into these nightmarish moments and memories, and some of them beautiful, some of them stunning. The way in which my family and my friends, my community rallied. I don't even. But that first third was really hard. And I want to give credit a little bit to you guys, to my online community. And that includes my podcast community, obviously. The listeners here. Because you demonstrated so early on that you were going to be safe for me, as I just flailed around. This is not a neat story. Like, it's not like 2 months later I was an okay person. I mean, it was just such a mess. And the fact that you had made it very clear, you are safe with us. We have you. You can be sad, you can be mad, whatever you are, Jen, you get to be that. We will hold it like with gentle hands, and you did. I'll tell you a way that really ended up serving this book. For I guess an entire year that I wrote it, I kept open a tab on my laptop of basically my Facebook account, my Instagram account. Scrolled all the way back, like I had it just on lock, all the way back to 2020. And as I was putting the puzzle together, just piece by piece, this is only a bunch of pieces. As I was picking the pieces to keep adding to the puzzle, social media was such a useful diary. And it was because you allowed me to come in and say some really hard things. I did not feel like I had to hide from you. And so thus, I got to go back and remember, like, oh yeah, I remember that day. Oh yeah, I remember what happened when I wrote that. Okay, I remember now. I had included things that people had said to me, had written to me, had texted to me, and those were like on social media posts because you were walking with me through the process. So it ended up being an account of the story in a way that served it so well. And so I kept going back. What happened that day? What did I say that month? What was I learning? Where was I going? Who was around me? What was I reading? It was all there. It was like all documented, or enough of it was that it reminded me, like, here is what you were talking about. Here is the conversation you alluded to, whatever it was. Had my community not demonstrated such unity, grace, encouragement, I would never have put some of that stuff on the internet. I would have felt unsafe to do so. I would have so anyway, you deserve credit for keeping that space for me so safe that it ended up being a diary for this book. And having said that, writing the first third, oh boy, it was so hard. It was so hard. Naming some of this stuff for the first time, knowing even as I was writing it, even then, you did not know it yet. I had not said it yet. I mean, you knew I'd lost my marriage, of course. You were watching me build a life out of the rubble, but I had not said anything. What had happened, what had led up to it, what sort of state of the union we were in. So even as I'm writing it, I'm like, oh my God, I just don't know. I'm like, what, am I really going to tell the whole world in print, which is forever, that we had gone 2 years without having sex? Am I going to tell them that? Like, no, I cannot say that. But then I was like, yes, if I'm going to tell the truth, let's tell the truth. Right? If I'm going to tell the story, then let's tell the story. Not like the shinier version of it, or the less humiliating version of it, or the one that would never indict me, only my partner. Right? Like there's no integrity in that. And also, again, back to my earlier point, that's not interesting. That's not interesting because it's not true. Anytime somebody just hands you something that is so manufactured and feels so void of just mistakes or failures or embarrassing, humiliating parts, or even self-awareness. Like, had I come to you and been like, I had nothing to do with any of this, that's a form of fiction. And I wanted to write a memoir. So, God, early on, back to the co-working space where we were just kind of getting the bones of the book, knowing that at that point it's mine. I got to go home and do that's mine to write, but just sort of the structure of it. I remember my friend Pepper said, okay, two important things that he said. The first one was because I tend to write in a prescriptive manner. He was like, That's not what you're doing here. Focus on senses. Focus on details. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell that day? What are the granular details of the memory? Build it for your reader so that they're there. They were in that room with you. They felt that feeling. They heard what you heard. They can see what you saw. Like, stay in your senses. Get out of your head and just put it on the page as an experience. So that took a lot of work, like, for me to really write in that way, in that descriptive way. So that absolutely served this book. And then the second thing he told me was, you can edit anything out later. Anything. We can delete whole sections. We can delete paragraphs. We can delete sentences. We can delete one word. But don't self-edit too soon. Go ahead and just put the wildest shit down on the page. All of it. Don't hold back. Don't put it behind the paywall. Don't omit it because it feels too terrifying. Put it all in. Everything goes on the page in the first draft. Later, we will apply discernment to it. We will take a keen editorial look at what you have included. We will use the wisdom of our collective, like, knowing to go, this, while true, this is how it happened, this is descriptive, this doesn't serve the story well. Or, which another one of my North Stars was, as I wrote it, the question that I asked myself constantly, particularly on that second pass, when it went, what stays in and what goes, right? Was, will I be proud of this in 5 years? I must have asked myself that 1,000 times. Will I be proud of this inclusion in 5? Will I be proud of this piece of the story? Will I be proud of this paragraph? Will I be proud of this sentence? And in some cases, one sentence came out and I felt myself swing back into alignment, right? Where I knew that I would not be proud of that sentence in 5 years. So the second pass pulled the book into a place that felt generous. If I have gotten one response over and over and over from early readers, it was that I treated this story of betrayal with a great deal of generosity. And that means the world to me to hear, because that was important to me. So I think this story ended up being generous. I think it's fair. And I hope that it is also self-honest. Whose story do I have to tell but my own? And so that included my patterns, right? My behaviors, my like garbage attachment style, my codependency actions. Like, it's all in there. I didn't leave myself off the witness stand. And so I think what I have ended up with is something I feel proud of. And I think that's the best thing I could possibly say. When I sit with my anxiety about you reading it all, which I have. In fact, those of you who are looking at this, anybody who's over on YouTube, like watching this interview, I'm going to pull in right now. Like, I don't know if you can see this to the camera, but I literally broke a blood vessel in my eye. And I was like, internet, how did this happen? And the internet was like, this is a real high common function of stress and anxiety. I'm like, oh, that actually tracks. That explanation actually makes sense at this time. So it's not that I don't have anxiety about this story going into the world. It is so vulnerable. Oh my God. But what I don't have anxiety about is, did I say too much? Right? Was I unfair? That's not it. That's not the drawer that's open. And so thank God, because I cannot put that genie back in a bottle. Now, whatever you are going to do with this story, that's really out of my hands. That I'm not in control of that. And nor do I want to be, you guys. I believe in you. I believe in you as a reader. I believe in you as a person. I believe in you as a fully formed, functional, mature, working adult who knows her own life, who knows how to take what you need and leave what you don't. I trust you to be able to go, that's not my experience, or that was my exact experience. Whatever it is, like that's yours. I always say this, but once a book goes into your hands, it belongs to you. It's yours now. I've already done my part. I did my part. I told it. I wrote it. Now it's going to come to you and become something I don't even know, to be honest. I don't know what it's going to become. I don't know what it's going to mean to you. I don't know what you're going to do with it. I cannot wait to see. I have a feeling because so many of us, most of us, if I could dare to be so presumptuous, built our houses with a lot of the same bricks. So what is that sort of examination going to mean for you? I can't wait to find out. I can't wait to see what you take away. I can't wait to hear what you're going to do with it. But all that to say, that's not mine. That's not my work. It's not my responsibility. I don't feel like I've got to micromanage you and how you think about me now, how you think about my family, I don't have to do that. So, that part I do not feel as anxious about. And so I think knowing that I, applied wisdom and discretion to the storytelling is about the biggest relief I have right now on my bones. And so, woofed. Now there is a moment in it where, and I just wrote down, I'm like, God, I wanted this book to be funnier. You know, I like to be funny. I do. I love to be funny. I love to write humor. I love satire. Like, I like to be funny. I've been funny in all my books that you've ever read of mine. But it just turns out the front half of the story is not that funny. It's not very funny at all. And so I did say at one point, I really wanted this to be funnier. So I'm sorry about that, but oh, sorry, editing. However, having said that, the back third, what a joy to write. That section of the book, and it's not that everything at that point was all shiny. Of course not. A year and a half in, no. It's not that. It's not that I transitioned to now everything's great. That's just not real life. That would have not been honest storytelling at all. But it was far enough along in the story where the absolute fog of despair and trauma had lifted. And I had maneuvered quite a few new pieces into the story at that point. And I was, well, waking up. I mean, that's where the title came from. Like, I was waking up in a way that just felt so exciting and like vibrant and shocking. What do I know? I got married when I was 19 years old. I had never, ever, ever had a independent adult day in my life, right? So just to discover, like, oh my God, I can do this. My life is not over. Like, I get to build the second half now. I am the architect of my story. I mean, what a revelation. Like, getting to write through those pieces of the process, oh my God, I loved that part. I loved that part of the writing. I did the final third, for the most part, not this past summer, but the summer before at Me Camp when I was in South Haven, Michigan. And that was my whole deal when I went there. I knew I was there on a writer's mission to write the back third of the book. And so I have this like visceral memory now of that little greenhouse, of where I sat in the living room. I'm right by the window, so I had like this beautiful like Michigan like foliage outside my window, writing some of my favorite parts of the story. I'll always be grateful to that little greenhouse. But let me read you. I do all that to say there is still some humor in here. What I can't help it. You know, I don't know how else to be. I come from funny people. It's how we process the world. So let me see if you can see this, those of you looking. So this is clearly, I'm near the end of the book. This is in the back third out of that section. All right, let me read this to you. God, why didn't I bring my glasses in here? I'm going to go get them. Sorry, if you can just edit this out. Let me get my glasses. Okay. Okay. So, having said that, let me read you an entry called Bumble. Heeding cues from my body and not just my overthinking mind, I think I am ready to date. She has given me the internal prompts, from emotional self-protection to dazzling independence to a little heat, even to loneliness. That's an earlier entry where I said that loneliness was actually a green flag. Oh, sure, my brain has plenty of shit to say about this because she is a nervous Nelly, but my body is like, knock, knock, please find a way to get near a man. My brain and body strike a compromise and decide to quietly make an online profile. Here is the extent of my knowledge on dating apps. Chrissy Metz said something on Instagram once about Bumble, where the women are in charge of choosing. This is the full scope of my intel. I drink 2 glasses of wine at 11:30 p.m. and download the app. I'm not concerned about my profile because the women choose on Bumble, so no one can even see me. I will peek in the window of men, ? And see what's out there. No harm, no foul, no big deal, no problem, no whoop. I do the bare minimum to make a profile, since it will be incognito. Required: 3 pics, the first 3 I find, my age, and location. I fill in 0 of the other fields: kids, hobbies, job, whatever it all is. My profile looks like a bot. Jen, 47, Buda, Texas. No additional information. Am I doing this right? Anyway, I upload the pics and go straight to bed, having exhausted my gumption. I wake up the next morning and look blearily at my phone. The whole screen is full of notifications. I'm trying to figure out if a group chat has gone off the rails when I notice the little yellow bee thing on every one of them. Fun fact, men can see you on Bumble. And apparently, you do not need a single qualifying detail on your profile for 144 of them to Bumble you. Also, a bunch of them super bumbled me, or whatever the hell it is called. And this is the reason God invented anxiety meds. I have no idea what to do, so I start scrolling through them, and I am just saying it is a dark 20 minutes. I guess I didn't require any parameters either. I'm new here. So every man in a 50-mile radius has bumbled me, including the divorcees who were like excited to start another family with the right lady, and I immediately die inside and become a ghost. The only way I am starting a family with some 50-year-old man is if he adopts me and I become his daughter. My brain steps in like a bossy bitch and says, just send a message to one and see what happens. I have, checks notes, never texted a stranger with romantic goals. I pick one who doesn't look terrifying, summon any dormant game living in my body, and write, "Hi there. God in heaven, deliver me from this mortal earth." That is the best I could do. I even put a period at the end, like a robot. Not 10 seconds later, "Hi, how are you?" How am I? Well, I don't even know. I am texting a stranger I have zero information on at 7:30 in the morning, and is this what dating is now? Because I am way too precious for this. Maybe my parents can arrange a marriage and I'll just show up to my wedding. Like the world's worst improviser, I give the exact opposite of yes and text back, "Fine, thanks," comma and period included. Disastrous. It's like I've forgotten how to be a person. I turn off notifications, put my profile on actual incognito mode, and close my phone immediately. I cannot be trusted here. 4 hours later, I meet my best friends for lunch. Jenny, Shauna, Megan, and I are doing our usual everyone talks at once but we miss nothing cacophony, and a rare gap opens. Very calmly, breezily, I mention I made a Bumble profile and things happened. The girls scream. One of them stands straight up and knocks her chair back. Someone grabs my phone and starts manically scrolling. They demand to see every word I texted, and all three are spouting loud shit at the same time. I quietly pull my shirt over my face, burst out crying, and delete Bumble. And that is the story of how I spent 12 hours on a dating app. Oh boy. Anyways. More where that came from. Okay, let me wrap this up. I am humbled and honestly honored to give you this book, to give you this story. Thank you. Just kind of isn't enough to be. I don't know how to say it. I want to say this better than I can say it. Thank you for being the kind of community that you are. I cannot fathom putting this into the world without you. I remember when last month, the New York Times did this big feature on me and on this book. And it was, in the interview series, and it went out into the world. And, that's a pretty big audience, the Times. And as all these people who did not know me and were like, their eyes were on that story and their stuff is filling up the comment feed, and it's just drawing this like high level of engagement. I think I told y'all this, but I was over there for a handful of minutes, like on their website and their spaces where they were posting. And I was like, you know what? It wasn't even mean. It wasn't even like everybody was being ugly, but I'm just like, nobody here knows me. I don't want to be here with these strangers. And I thus migrated right back over to Instagram and Facebook where you are, where I had posted for you to read. And I'm like, these are my people. I'll just stay with mine. I will just stay with my own. Whatever they have to say is really what matters. They know me. They know this. They know this story. So I didn't even want to be with all those strangers. So thank you for being you. Thank you for your loyalty to me. It's so absurd. It is so beautiful. And thank you for ordering this book. I can't wait for you to have it. I really can't. And I hope so much that it serves you. My very favorite endorsement that I got. Endorsements are something that authors have to get when we have to ask our writer friends to say nice things about our books. It's torture, to be honest. And But my friend Jamie Kernlima, who was one of my earliest readers, and she sent this endorsement in, and there was one sentence in which she said, of Awake, you start out rooting for Jen, but you end up rooting for yourself. It's the most perfect sentence to describe how I want this to go for you. You may start out rooting for me, but boy, I sure hope you end up rooting for yourself. I hope that you also decide, I'm ready to be awake in my own life. I'm ready to admit where I've been sleepwalking or in slumber. I'm ready. I'm ready to face that. I'm ready to go eyes wide open into the second half of my story. And I just can't wait to hear. I just can't wait to hear from you. So it's all yours. It's out today. It's out today. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for sending it to whoever you will immediately know could benefit from it. You'll know when you see. Thank you for grabbing one for your sister or like for your best friend. Thank you for putting it in your book clubs. Gosh, we're already hearing about that awesome thing. Thank you for grabbing your girlfriends and going, let's read this together. It's amazing. You're amazing. So, finally, if there's anything you want to tell me about this book once you read it, go over to my website, searchjenhatmaker.com. Under the podcast tab, we have a place where you can leave a voicemail for me. You can tell me, this is what I heard, or this is what I read, or this is what I want to tell you, or this was my story, this was my experience. And we're going to put together a whole episode of your voicemails to Awake, and I can't wait for that. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here in this moment with me. You are the reason I write books. You are also the reason I was brave enough to tell this particular story. And now it's yours. I love you.